What's the single most important decision I have ever made that still pays dividends after 30 years? That's the question I'm going to answer in today's video. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Erkka Suvanto. Some of you call me EJ. The guy who's on social media to build a legacy for his kids and pass on all the life and business lessons to each and every one of you. Today in this video, I want to go back to my early 20s, to be exact, when I was 19 years old. And the decision I made back then still pays dividends today, almost 30 years later. What is that decision? When I was 18, right before going to the military, a good friend of mine, he was a big US fan and he had participated in the US green card lottery. And we one day had a conversation about my future plans and how to keep your options open. And he asked me if it made sense for me to participate in that same green card lottery with the idea that, hey, what the heck, there's nothing to lose. At least you have an insurance policy, or you can keep your door open to travel there and work and potentially even live in that country in the future. I was neutral to the idea, thinking that, okay, why not? Sounds like a good plan. Forgot about the whole thing, filled out my paperwork, went to the military. And the same day when I got out, which by the way was my birthday, I got a letter from the US immigration people back then saying that congratulations, you just won a green card in our lottery. And I was like, what? Fast forward to the next spring when I'm at the US Embassy in Helsinki, waiting in line to be interviewed by the officials at the embassy, all nervous, not knowing what's going to happen. Literally, like walk in the park, no questions except for one. Sir, what's your plan as far as moving to the country? And I'm like, what? I had no idea what he was talking about. I didn't know that at least back then, after receiving a green card, you had a 4-month window to move to the country and officially establish your residence. And I just blurted something out like, well, it's still kind of up in the air. So I don't know. And then that's when they reminded me that you probably knew that you had that 4-month window to move. I was like, of course, absolutely. And I had no clue. I go back home, call my parents asking, okay, so do you guys know anybody who owns an apartment or a house in the US? Because apparently I'm moving. After a couple of phone calls, I was able to find out that a friend of ours owned a condo in Florida. So that's where I was headed. I had never been to the US before. I was okay in English, but I wasn't fluent in any way. But I decided deep down that this was my opportunity. Ever since I turned 17 or 18, I had this strong urge and need to do things my way. And I knew that I wanted to see the world. And I already back then, I believe, deep down understood the term short-term pain versus long-term regret. I had no way to explain that in any way, but I just knew deep down that I had to move. I had to go and explore the world. Otherwise, I would regret it for the rest of my life. So then, one late May day, I hop on a plane from Helsinki to Miami and I land there. Our friends pick me up, take me to the condo that I rented, and the following day, they left. I had to figure out how to get a driver's license, open a bank account, get my social security number, and first and foremost, find a job because I didn't have enough money to survive. Speaking of life lessons, and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is something that I'm deeply grateful still today. And that particular decision that I made when I was 19 years old, when I was brave enough to move to the other side of the Atlantic, start fresh, start from scratch in a new country, learn the language, get to know the people, understand how things worked, is something I'm still grateful today. But I had to pay a price. There was once a funny incident when I had found my first job. I was a doorman in a condominium complex in Palm Beach. Also worked construction with the local crew there in the same condo complex. And I remember one day when I was starting to get comfortable with the language and I thought that, I basically understand enough and I can have a conversation, and there aren't really words that I missed that badly. Until one day, one morning, we had an asphalt crew that came in. They had to redo the whole front part of the building. These guys were from deep south. And they had an accent I had no clue what they were saying when I talked to them. I tried to be social. I went there to have a conversation. And I talked to one of the guys. And I remember asking 3 times what he meant with what he said. And the 4th time, I was so embarrassed that I just left because I couldn't understand a word. I remember that was so humiliating to me because I had built my confidence level up when it comes to English. And then somebody knocks you all the way down. But those are the little things that you learn. You learn how to get humble in a new environment. So the old saying is very valid in this case too. Change your environment, change your behavior. In your own country, in a comfortable neighborhood, you know your parents, you know your friends, you can hang out with your buddies all day long. You know all the routines. When you're thrown into a new environment, you have no idea what to do in the beginning. But that's how you learn. So getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, it is the big lesson to me that I learned when I was 19 years old. And that is the single most important decision in my life that set the tone for my future life and the next 30 plus years. Because I believe strongly that today, the fact that I'm fearless when it comes to going after my dreams and facing new things and being able to reset and start from scratch is a direct result from those decisions that I made back in the day. So if I had to tell my kids what to do, how to grow professionally and personally as much as possible, I would tell them point blank, understand the concept of comfort zone and leave your comfort zone as early as possible. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. The other key lesson that I also learned was the difference between school and real life. There are 2 things that school teaches us wrong. Number 1, we are taught early on from 1st grade that there's only one right answer to a question. But if you think about it, in real life, there are several right answers, but there's only one wrong answer, and that is to do nothing. In my case, to do nothing, not to travel, not to be brave, to go and take that risk and leave my comfort zone. I had no idea how things worked. But I learned that things work in many ways. There was the Finland way and there was the United States and the Florida way, which are completely different. Both models can produce results. The other thing about schools is that we are used to an immediate feedback loop. You take part in a quiz or a test, you get your feedback almost instantaneously. Your score or your teacher giving you feedback based on how you did. But in real life, it doesn't work that way. You have to wait for years, sometimes for decades, for the results to come. So we need to learn patience. We need to learn how to delay that gratification so that we can become successful and really good at something in life. And that's the other valuable lesson that I learned when I moved to another country for the first time when I was 19. You don't get the results right away. You have to put in the hours, you have to put in the work to get comfortable in a new environment. There is no direct or instant feedback loop. No regrets. Absolutely none. Because I will always choose short-term pain over long-term regret. And like I said, that particular decision when I was 19 set the tone for my whole life. And I believe the fact that I'm today comfortable with the unknown and comfortable with the uncomfortable is a direct result based on what I started and decided back in the day. That's all I wanted to say. I guess my only message, if you want to simplify this whole thing, is that there should be no fear, because taking action is always a good decision. There's only one wrong answer in life, and that is to do nothing. Thank you for watching. If you like the videos, please hit the subscribe and the like button, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.